I am joined by Robert Griffin III, James White, Field Yates Meanakeims. All right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
What's going on?
Now I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, where'd that intro go? It just kind of went away.
I don't know. That was kind of funky. I usually am a creature of habit, so I kind of threw me off a little bit. But
yeah, it's all good. We're here. We're going to wrap up kind of what's going on with free agency. We've got some other stuff going on here as well, which we will roll into as the show goes along. But again, everyone's waiting for other shoes to drop. There may not be big shoes to drop. So we'll kind of recap things that are going on today, Tayler, that affect the Patriots. Or may not affect the Patriots. We just may think they affect the Patriots. And, we'll start kind of with, what everybody's wondering is happening here. Decision on Cooper Kupp expected soon. Multiple teams in the mix, kind of a mixed bag in terms of the reporting on what Kupp wants versus what teams are willing to offer. But it appears to be kind of that sweet spot is about 2 and 30. Just a question of whether the teams he wants are giving him that or not. He might be stuck between destination, opportunity, and trying to get as much money as possible in what's likely to be his last NFL contract. The Patriots are supposedly in the mix, but also not willing to break the bank in this situation here. So we'll talk about that and kind of how we view whether or not this is a must do for the Patriots right now. The other thing going on as we wrap up week 1 of free agency, there is news involving another wide receiver the Patriots may or may not be in on, and that is T. Higgins. That was always the dream. I think a lot of people, Tayler, had really just convinced themselves that T, you did not?
No, I was saying for so long, I'm like, unless I see it, I'm not letting. It was kind of like when I let it creep in for Ronnie Stanley, but both of those guys before the season ended, I was like, nope, I'm not buying it. I want them to come here, but I don't think they're ever going to hit the market.
Yeah, and so that was it. With that is, it didn't. Once he was franchised, you knew it was over. You've seen they've been dropping breadcrumbs here. They want to keep him happy. I think keeping Joe Burrow happy is number one. So that T. Higgins situation looks like it's probably over for the Patriots, and that's fine. There are some people that allowed themselves to dream that, like, well, what if you can shake Jamar Chase free? And that wasn't going to happen either.
Dream is a wish your heart makes.
Looks like both receivers will be returning to Cincinnati. Patriots made a couple of minor moves today. We'll talk about those as well. But here we are, Tayler, and I'll just get your kind of global view on things here. We were down at Gillette Stadium these last couple of days as the Patriots were introducing some of their new players. And there you see, guys just kind of hanging out and doing their thing at Gillette. Day one yesterday, you got to see some of the big boys there, along with Mike Vrabel, Elliott Wolf, Robert Kraft, and there they are right there: Moses, Davis, Williams, and then a couple more today: Mac Hollins, who everybody likes. Spillane was the other. Sorry. You've got that, and then that's kind of their big haul. That was their big presentation here. That's maybe the meat of what they're going to do here. One of the things Mike Vrabel was asked about was, what are you going to do to address other positions of need? And he's like, well, it's still a process. It's not over, but the possibilities are dwindling. So that's that. I'll also let you know as members start to fill in, this first pass of this show is a members only chat. Mm-hmm. Tayler and I are going to wrap for a couple of minutes just about what's going on, and then we are going to take your questions. So don't overload right now. I'm going to go back, and anything you guys ask, we're going to try to talk about it. This is your show, members, and I want you guys to drive the conversation, and that's what we're going to be doing today. Thank you very much for signing up to Patriots Press Pass Premium memberships. We're going to do one of these every week at Friday at a designated time. And that's going to be all the way through. So this is what you're going to get with your GOAT membership, a chance to jump in here. And yeah, I might even offer one of you guys an opportunity to jump on the show if that's something you want to do. We'd need your email in order to be able to send you a link, but I'm not against doing that. So let us know if you want to pop in at the tail end of the show, and maybe we'll wrap a little bit with Tayler. So Tayler, taking a step back here, not much has changed in terms of everything, that big splash really being day one here. Are as the week has gone on, do you feel okay with where they're at? Again, there's a lot of antsy Patriots fans really worried about receiver and tackle, and I think justifiably so. But we've talked about this a lot, Taylor. Like, I don't know that there was an elegant solution that was going to fix your problems there. At best, you were going to address them a little bit. They haven't really addressed it at all, and I think that's why people are freaking out some.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the 3 premium positions in football, I understand they're the 2 holes they haven't filled. The only other hole is edge rusher, and they haven't filled it with any premium acquisition, but at least you got Landry, you got Callahan Chason, who they signed last night from the Raiders, overlapped with Josh McDaniels. You have some guys that you feel decent about, right? Especially because the interior is going to be good. But it makes sense that with wide receiver and left tackle unaddressed with any significant signings, yeah, people are a little stressed out. What I will counter with to make people feel a little bit better is the fact that they filled every other hole when you really look at it, right? Like, we had holes on defense all over the place. Right tackle was a hole as well. You can also say, yes, now they have an additional hole over at left guard and center, of course, but I don't think those are like lost causes necessarily. I think that center and guard both have a lot of young guys who could at least compete for roles. You have some guys who've been backups before that could, at least be solid for you. And hopefully they just had some competition. I know they signed one guy who was with the Jets, Wes something. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name right now, but there's still options, right? And I've seen some arguments that, yeah, the Patriots have done all these things on defense, but they haven't made the moves on offense. But you also have to think about the moves that they could have even potentially made, and there really weren't any. We talked about Ronnie Stanley was the crown jewel of the offensive line class until he didn't actually make it to free agency. Chris Godwin went back to Tampa Bay. The only options at left tackle for the Patriots were Dan Moore and Cam Robinson. Dan Moore signed with the Titans for 4 years, a lot more money than he probably deserved. A 2-3 year deal I would consider overpaying. 4 years, that's a real commitment. I understand why the Patriots weren't interested at all, apparently, in Dan Moore, actually, an average starter. And then Cam Robinson is not the player he was before, but I do think he is a bit of an improvement over Vederian Lowe. And I think Vederian Lowe's solid, right? He's a spot starter, but he's not really much more than that. I think Robinson gets you just past the threshold enough that if you draft a tackle, you should be in a good shape. You should be in good shape. And then at wide receiver, you still don't have that go-to big play threat necessarily. Even if you add Cooper Kupp, I don't think that's what he would be. I just think it's another leader in the room. But on the bright side, you have 2 picks in the top 45. I think the Patriots can or in the top 40. So you can easily address tackle and wide receiver, maybe not with, immediate high quality starters, but capable starters. If it's a Will Campbell and a Jaden Higgins or something like that, Ariante Ursary and Tet, whatever combination you want. So still, yes, big shoes to fill. But if you look at the entire roster relative to where they were before free agency started, it's impossible to say that you're not feeling a lot better than where they were last season.
Yeah. And again, it's almost kind of waiting for that thing that I don't know that it exists. And I do think people are frustrated, and I think people are starting to, kind of think like, well, what about a trade? What about this? What about that? I do think you have to take that snapshot picture and just recognize you have a lot of needs. You got to be careful with your draft assets. You can't be loading up on a lot of things. You're not a win now team. You have to kind of respect the process and that it's going to take a little bit of time. I'm not saying you have to trust it, because look, it's up to them to prove to you that whatever process they're going through is going to work. Did they sign the right guys? Are they going to draft the right guys? So I don't know that they've given you reason to trust the process, but you have to respect it, which is it's going to take time, and it's 2 different things. And that could involve, and again, you look at the Commanders, they go a little bit more into win now mode because they didn't bust out. They didn't totally bust year 1 of their rebuild. They made a big step, and now they're trying to capitalize on that quarterback on a rookie deal in year 2. And usually year 3 is the big all in, push your chips in and start to sign guys and spend money. So they're doing it a year early. You're hoping the Patriots can get there on year 3 of Drake May. So again, this is the process, whether you like it or not. And you have to understand, like, Devontae Adams was not coming here. They tried like hell to get Chris Godwin to come here. There's things that you do. I mean, you tried with Ridley, you tried with Ayuk. They've been taking legitimately huge swings at the receiver position, and nobody's biting right now. So it might have to happen organically, and we'll see what happens here. Once again, thank you guys who have jumped in on the chat, and we are going to be taking some of your questions here. Taylor, I don't know if you wanted to follow on what I was saying there before we jump in and try to get some of the questions. And again, I urge the members here, this show is for you guys. We're going to talk about what's going on today, but we're here to take all of your questions. So please fire away on anything that you have that you want. Primarily Taylor. Nobody wants to hear what I think, but Taylor's got some answers. I can guarantee you that.
And the last thing really is, to your point, it's what Vrabel said about his play style that he wants from Drake May in the offense. Also, how he said they were approaching free agency and player acquisition. You want to be aggressive, but you don't want to be reckless, right? And I understand people are like, oh, you are desperate as a team, right? Well, when you hear about teams that did it the right way, you think about the Texans, you think about the Commanders, where people say, what that basically means is you didn't overspend and try to make a desperate attempt to get somebody who maybe didn't live up to the kind of contract you offered, like a Dan Moore. You could argue DK Metcalf, right? Only because of, the character stuff's a little bit iffy and he hasn't lived up to his potential, even though he's still a formidable player. So you wanted to be, the Texans, the Commanders were the Texans. I think the Patriots are definitely looking at more of a Dan Campbell Lions model. You wanted that to happen last year, but it was pretty much a wash because you didn't have the right leadership in place. But even still, with Mike Vrabel, maybe that accelerates it a little bit, and you have the quarterback. So in year 2 and year 3, you're hoping, big step forward. Maybe they're not winning, a playoff game, but in the late part of the season, you're talking about them probably making the playoffs. And then in year 3, you're saying, okay, maybe they actually make a strong push now that we've seen it. And like you said, they have the money. People respect the destination now. They actually are willing to take a chance to maybe win a ring.
Yeah, no doubt. Questions, we're going to start right now. And again, this is a members only private live chat. And so it's up to you guys to drive the conversation here. And we are happy for those of you who did join us. And we will start, as we were talking about, the topic of receiver. And this is, I think, a big question for everyone because, and again, Nelson, thank you for becoming a premium member. So yes, we do appreciate you. And also Taylor's going to have some more film stuff coming out this week for all of you premium members out there as well. So this is the question I think everyone's asking, because you don't want to call a draft a bust after 1 year. Typically, you need at least 3 years to be able to tell what you really got in there. But between the offensive linemen that you've drafted, one of whom you've already decided is not going to be playing left tackle, even though that was your stated goal when you kind of drafted out of need there. And another, you're hoping, can play on the interior. So you did put some capital into the offensive line, but you also put some draft capital into receiver, which they hadn't done much of under Bill Belichick. And it was obviously a priority for them last year. We all know how bad Jalen Polk was. And when we say bad, we're talking about by almost every metric and every piece of analysis you could throw at it, the worst receiver in the NFL bad. There's no hiding from that. And then Javon Baker, who was literally running the wrong routes all the way till the last week of the season, and couldn't get on the field on a team that had no receivers and was dying for some explosive playmaking ability. It's about as bad as it could have been for these two guys. I can't imagine coming out worse and having a worse rookie season. Can they recover? As players, and specifically as Nelson asks here, under the tutelage of new offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels?
Can they? Absolutely. I don't think anyone's ever questioned Jalen Polk or Javon Baker in terms of talent. Alex Van Pelt, anytime he was asked about them, he's like, no, I think they've got bright futures in this league. It's going to come down to discipline. And you can say whatever you want about Alex Van Pelt. I loved my year of covering him because he was always honest. This man was never disingenuous, and you could tell that he wanted to give you as much as he could and be as transparent as possible without giving too much away. And when we asked him, like, kind of pointedly about Javon Baker, he was honest and was like, yeah, you need to earn the trust and make sure that you're someone where we know you're going to line up in the right place. You're going to do the right thing. You're going to run the right pattern. it was very obvious that on a fundamental level, he wasn't showing enough in practice. And we could see that because everyone says, oh, it doesn't matter. Even if he's not good in practice, you don't have anything else, put him out there. Then he went on the field and was like missing blocks, thinking it was a pass play and getting Ramondre Stevenson tackled, things like that. And then with Jalen Polk, he actually did show flashes longer than Javon Baker did, who flamed out towards the end of the summer, even in the beginning of the season. Some little, flashes in that 49ers game, but you started to see once he got in his head, he couldn't get out. So the biggest hurdle for these guys is going to be, can you get into the playbook? Can you be reliable? Are you going to put the extra work in to make sure that the coaching staff knows they can count on you? Kayshon Boutte is the guy they need to look to in that regard, because Kayshon was somebody that Van Pelt, again, in his honesty, told us, I didn't think that Kayshon was going to have a role in this offense, to be very honest with you. That changed in training camp when Kayshon was like blocking his tail off, when he was making plays, when he was putting in that extra time. And then it translated to the field where, oh, he makes a block and has a pass catch or catches a pass. Oh, he gets open in a 2-minute drill for Jacoby Brissett against the Seahawks, gets down and quickly goes to spot the ball. Like little things like that increased his role. By the end of the season, Kayshon Boutte's your number one receiver. That's the path for Javon Baker and Jalen Polk, I think, in this offense. Do the little things, earn your coach's trust, and then everything we talk about, like the details, getting on time with Drake May, which I think is going to be big. They need to spend a lot of time with him this offseason, but I don't doubt that they can be talented players. It's just whether or not they put the work in and allow Josh McDaniels to maximize what they do well.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And that's really what it comes down to. And again, thank you, Nelson. And keep the questions coming, guys. We're going to kind of rifle through them as they come in here. That's really it. It's frustrating, right? Because the worst thing is spending draft capital on a problem I wouldn't say you've solved, but that you tried to address already, and taking another swing so quickly. I've always been of the mind, I think you have to keep reloading at receiver because you're not going to hit them all. And I always say, yeah. So again, I think for sure with receiver, and again, you see the Chiefs do it, you see other teams do it. They don't hit all the time. Look at how many misses the Chiefs have had, with guys that they're trying to take shots at. I think you got to keep plugging. And I always think you should be taking, 3 every 2 years, somewhere in the first 3 or 4 rounds, for sure, because this is what the market tells you. You can't get them later. They're very expensive. Either they don't get to free agency, and when they do, they're tier 2 guys that you have to pay premium numbers to, or you have to trade a lot of draft capital to be able to acquire one and then pay them ridiculous salaries and extensions, as you see what happened to DK Metcalf. I'm not going to say ridiculous, but a second rounder and $30 million. Best way to do it is to draft them, and you got 5 years, and you got to keep getting at it for sure. So that's it. Them flailing so badly, Tayler, in year 1 makes you not know how hard you have to go back at it in year 2. It's hard to. They've been clear about it. They really want a guy that they feel that they can call their number 1 outside boundary guy. I still have to think they're trying to get it one way or the other.
Yeah, because Vrabel has said contested catches, yards after catch, things that make the quarterback's life easier because he doesn't want to have to throw it downfield all game, and also separation. Put all those things together, there's not a lot of individual receivers that have all of those traits. Yeah. And, some of your parts, of course, but you'd like to have all those things in one package that your quarterback knows I'm in a tough spot. I can throw to, an A.J. Brown type. Trey Harris, anyone? Well, A.J. Brown light. I mean, light. It's like dairy-free, I don't know, mayo that doesn't have eggs in it. I don't know. That's the best I can think of. But, yeah. They
don't freak out, Tayler. I'm putting you solo for 1 second. You're okay. I'm still here. Go ahead.
All right, no problem. But, what the question was about the receiver position. I'm trying to think of any options that are even on the trade market necessarily. Obviously, A.J. Brown is one that we all hope would maybe land. I don't think that's going to happen, though. Anybody I've spoken to with Philadelphia doesn't really think that's a legitimate option. Stephon Diggs still on the market. I wonder if they'd have any interest there, but there aren't any Texans connections on the roster. I don't think any Bills connection. There's Ryan. Was Ryan Cowan with Buffalo? No, I don't think he was. He just is connected with a lot of guys from Buffalo.
That's the thing, right? Is that the options are limited. The AJ Brown is just Mike Vrabel knows him and likes him, and play, had him. That doesn't seem realistic. And Diggs, you know, I have to think the entire league is feeling that Amari Cooper is washed. Because you haven't heard anybody tied to him. I think he's going to be looking at a 1 and a 5. That's the funny thing I was thinking about. The downside, the upside of being a receiver, you know, who's free or looking for a new home and signing or getting traded to a team that has an elite quarterback is it might boost your value. But when that happens and you do get traded to a team like, you know, Hopkins going to KC or Cooper going to Buffalo and you have an elite quarterback and you still stink, your value drops to 0. And I think that's what happened with those guys. I think people believe Stephon Diggs can still play, but he's a pain in the ass and he's coming off an ACL. And I don't know who wants that, that thing. Someone's going to do it, and it would not stun me if it's the Patriots for the right price. Would not stun me at all. I'm getting a text from my friend. Jamar Chase, new deal, will be around 40. Yeah, highest paid non-position player. Let's get to a couple more questions. And again, the other issue, you know, is Patriots wide receiver. What are they going to do at left tackle? I know that that's a big one, and we're going to put it in here in the chat for Sergeant Moonshine reporting for duty. How are we feeling about taking Campbell at 4? Me personally, I'm standing on unless
Business.
Carter is there at 4. I'm trading back for more draft capital. And again, thank you, Sergeant Moonshine, for being a valued member here, and appreciate your question. And Taylor, I think this is where a lot of Patriots fans are, right? It's Carter, Hunter, or trade it back. And that's the thing. And I think they're in a unique position to do that, because if it's not Carter or Hunter, that means one of the quarterbacks is left, and that means somebody might bite. And you're sitting in a pretty good position there. So they actually are still in a position of power, because you have the 2 best players in the draft are non-quarterbacks, and one of them might fall to you if 2 of the top 3 teams take QB. And if not, you might be in a position where you're holding that last card there on that last quarterback, and someone's got to come get him before he gets snapped up. It's not horrible to be at. So, I mean, let's assume those guys are off. Yeah, what are you going to do? You trade, or do you sit there and take the best player available?
I'm taking the so here's the thing. What if the Bears, right? They've got a second round pick in a pretty good spot. What if they say, we'll give you a haul, right? We will give you a second round pick and we'll give you a future like second or third for your number 4 pick. I'm taking that, because if I can get yes, these are generational players. I'm just not of the mindset that I would automatically say, yes, I have to take them, because I do think that short term, I think they filled a lot of their holes. I think wide receiver and left tackle are the glaring spots. But I do think when you look at this team a year, 2 years down the road, there are some positions where you're a little bit worried and you like some developmental young talent, like tight end, like running back, linebacker, defensive tackle. So also edge rusher. Obviously, they have no young edge rushers really that aren't in veteran contracts. So I would say that I would consider a haul at number 4, but it would really have to blow me away, because obviously Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are the only blue chips that you can really get.
And you might not get it, as Patrick Von Oz says here, and thank you, Patrick, for being a premium member. Yeah, this gets tricky, because everything got weird here, right? Because outside of the top 4, you're looking at Jacksonville at 5, and they're all set. The Raiders made their move for a quarterback, and they went all in, and they signed Geno to an extension, so they're out. The Jets, apparently, Justin Fields, that's their guy. And that's what they're going to do. The Panthers, they're going to stay put with Bryce Young, who had a decent resurgence, but he was reinserted back into the starting lineup. The only team I can see in that top 10, and you might have to go even further, the only team I see that might be interested is the Saints at 9. And they might wait it out.
Because Geno hasn't signed his contract yet. So we don't actually know if they see him as the long-term solution.
Yeah. I don't think the Raiders, I think that's what they want there. I think maybe if you disagree, that's fine. I'm looking at the Saints, who are saying Derek Carr, but I don't think are feeling Derek Carr as a possibility there.
Yeah, absolutely not. Spencer Rattler kind of showed they're not exactly feeling Derek Carr like that.
But you're in hell after that. You're talking about Bears, Niners, Cowboys. I mean, the Cowboys will eventually have to think about quarterback, but they're not giving up. They're not giving up first round massive draft capital to move up when they've got somebody in there. You saw that what the Colts have done recently, which is baffling, but still, I don't know what, if they'd be in the mix. Atlanta's happy with Penix. Cardinals are stuck with Kyler Murray. Bengals, Seahawks have kind of moved in their direction already with Darnold. Bucks are happy. Broncos are happy. Steelers at 21. That's the next one. It's really far down that wants to trade up. And it's a good point, Patrick, is everyone was looking Jets, Steelers is right beneath you as teams that might want to, Jets, Raiders. And I don't know that that's the case anymore. So you're right. You might be there with with your top two players out, Carter and Hunter out, and a quarterback sitting there and nobody's calling. How do you see that going? And how low can you go? Would you trade past 9, or at that point, that's just you're going way too far down in the draft?
I think it's too soon to say because we don't know what non-quarterbacks around that range are really going to rise up the ranks. Like, if you think Mason Graham is going to change your defense and you're one of these teams, let me think, somebody like, I don't know, didn't Carolina just sign Carolina, they signed Tershawn Wharton, but they wanted to sign Milton Williams. If Carolina says, I want to jump the Jaguars because I want to create an elite interior defensive tackle combination, they could move up. It's not all about quarterbacks. There are still teams that if a guy's high on their board, they could be aggressive in trying to get him. So obviously the quarterbacks are one thing, but if the quarterbacks are gone and it's the Giants and the Patriots or the first players or the first teams that don't pick a quarterback, then it really just falls down to, all right, who is in that top 5 mix? Who, with pro days, with interviews, as the draft buzz starts to build and we know what the teams feel, okay, who is truly in that top, 4 or 5 range that people are going to want to make a move for? So again, it's not all about the quarterbacks. It just means that whatever return you get isn't going to be a jackpot. But honestly, and that's the tough part, I guess. If they're not going to offer you a jackpot, then you can just stand there and take a generational pick. I don't want to say generational. I feel like that's unfair. Travis Hunter, yes. I think Abdul Carter's close. He still has a lot of things he's got to work on, though. But he's got the talent for sure.
Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. And all you got to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. So run your game all season long on Prize Picks. They now offer Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. And the second half of the basketball season is officially here, and the race to the playoffs is heating up on Prize Picks. So don't miss your chance to cash in as the league's best fight for playoff positioning. You think LeBron James will get more than 24 points? You think Giannis will get more than 35? Cook up those hot takes with your friends and win real money this basketball season. All you got to do is sign up on the Prize Picks app today. Download the app and use that code CLNS. You get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
Switching side to defense here. Is Kyle Duggar, Robin Fish here? Rob, thank you for being a premium member. Is Kyle Duggar going to be a full-time linebacker? Not really, but you play him in a role where he's, doing some things that linebackers do. But no, I don't think so. You Taylor?
Yeah, no. If anything, maybe they play more of their 3 safety packages than they used to and have Duggar and Peppers close to the line of scrimmage. Like, they signed Marcus Epps, who I think is going to give them, if he's healthy, he tore his ACL early last year. He's getting in his late 20s, I think. How old is he actually? Let me check. I think he's going to be 29 this season. Epps age. Yeah, he's 29, just turned that in January. So, you don't know exactly what to expect. I'm thinking he's kind of like Deron Harmon, where in their 3 packages, he's the center fielder. But Duggar, he's not strictly a linebacker. Like Jamie and Sherwood, Robert Spillane, those are guys who played linebacker in the NFL, right? Even though they're more safety body types. Duggar's been a safety his entire career. I would be stunned if they move him to fullback or linebacker full-time, especially because you don't love him in deep coverage, but he can still do it, and he can still make plays, ideally. So, yeah, I think that Duggar's going to still live near the line of scrimmage, hopefully more than he has in the past, but I don't think he's going to be linebacker full-time.
Yeah. Speaking of safeties, let's go to Taylor's favorite player here, Marte Mapu. What?
Oh, I was
Play the
outside.
clip, Ahmed.
God, no. I
The
hope the
clip's
clip is
got to
not
be loaded
available.
at
Um,
all times.
it
It's
should
fine.
not be.
What kind
But
of role do you see here?
dime linebacker, because my thing is, as much as I like Marte Mapu, he's so inconsistent, way too inconsistent. Like, I honestly have Marcus Epps and Del Pettis over him, and Jalen. I have Marte Mapu last in the safety group, honestly, because he didn't show it last season. He still has the flashes where you're like, there's the range, those are the ball skills, that's the intelligence you want to see, and all that stuff. But then he's like missing all these tackles. There was one game, I think, against the Dolphins, he got pancaked like 6 times. So, like, he should not be on the field in run situations. And if he is, he should be at free safety, far away from the action. But in passing situations, I do like him all over the field, honestly. Like, if he becomes more disciplined and more consistent, I'd like him to be moved around. But for now, man-to-man against linebackers is, I think, where he's probably best. Maybe as a robber where he can read the quarterback and make some plays. But really, I like him in obvious passing situations, ideally close to the line of scrimmage. And if you're going to use him early on, like if injuries strike again, keep him deep. Keep him deep.
Keep him deep. I don't know how deep dive you've done on some of your draft stuff here. Darian Porter, are you familiar with him?
No, I've not gotten to corners yet. I was
What-
heavy in the trenches in wide receiver, and I have not watched much.
Yeah,
draft
well,
stuff
just
to-
generally speaking, whether the Patriots would look to corner, yeah, look, you need a slot corner. For sure here, unless you think there's someone who's sliding right into that seamlessly, Taylor. But John Jones is gone. John Jones might have played safety this year. It wasn't entirely clear, but I don't think you're done because you've stopped at 2. I think D-back's one of those things where you want to have as many good ones as possible. It's just whether you're willing to spend premium draft capital on it. And while I think you're not trying to draft for need per se, I do think it'd be a waste of a day 1 pick for sure, maybe even a day 2 to go get a cornerback in this draft. But your thoughts, and again, they're not drafting for need, but there is a line in terms of best available. If it's a toss up between a position you feel you've got okay and another position that you don't, you're always going to go in the don't direction unless you love. I mean, unless you're Bill Belichick or you just absolutely love the player.
One, Carlton Davis has missed like games every year of his career, so you're going to need depth there, period. He's also getting up there in age, so you'd like to develop somebody behind him who can ideally take over, whether it be next year or the year after. Marcus Jones is an awkward scheme fit. They haven't moved on from him or anything, and they were willing to bring Jonathan Jones back, who doesn't really fit their size profile. But Marcus Jones is like a significant departure because, like I mentioned, they don't play a lot of 3 safety nickel, which is what the Patriots used against a lot of like 2 tight end looks, or if they saw a fullback. Instead of going base, they would replace a linebacker, not with a cornerback, but with a safety to kind of, meet halfway where you have the physicality and the athleticism. But what Vrabel typically did in Tennessee was just play straight nickel, kind of like the Bills, where it doesn't matter what they see, they're going to play 3 corners because Teron Johnson is one of the best corners in the NFL. He's like a corner and a linebacker because he's so physical. Marcus Jones is, I think, the best run defender of all the Patriots corners, but he's still small. He's competitive, but he gives up plays as well. So I think they are going to look for somebody who fits their role, like a Billy Bowman or maybe like an Andrew Makuba who has some versatility there. But corner's probably more of a mid-round area you want to look at because Alex Austin can still play. You have Isaiah Bolden. I think those guys will probably fit what this defense is looking for, but you would like to have someone that you're working on behind the scenes and trying to have become a full-time player. The only corner, though, I take before like the 3rd round is Travis Hunter. That's it.
Yeah. And exactly that. And if you do,
he's playing receiver too. So
I'm having him play receiver. Yeah. Everyone thinks it's 80-20 the other way. I think it's really interesting. It's interesting to have a player like that is like, I'll do whatever, as opposed to like, I'm this, but I'll also do that. I mean, I know he's saying like, I actually want to play both full time, but I don't think any team is going to do that with somebody, but some team's going to decide their trajectory of his career. It's a really interesting thing when you have someone who's actually that good at both, that you can make a case in either direction. Also interesting, you have never known in his career, he could very well start as a wide receiver and transition to corner is somewhere else, or even on your team. So a really interesting player here. And again, as we wrap up week 1 of free agency, urging everybody here in the chat, to fire off your questions. Again, this is First Pass is a members only broadcast where you guys have our full undivided attention. We'll answer all of your questions, except ones that are, redundant, which is fine. But, there'll be some where people are kind of asking some of the same stuff. Nelson wants to know, Kyle, and again, we're digging into draft here, but first flush here, you got wide receivers and tight ends. Anybody you like outside of the first round guys being mentioned?
Sleepers. It's tough. I haven't really gotten too many sleepers yet. I haven't gotten. I like Pat Bryant. He's like my guy out of Illinois. I got to talk to him at the Senior Bowl. Really smart, really high character guy. Based on what they've added in free agency, Pat Bryant would fit this team like a glove. Like his head coach cried talking about him because he committed. They changed coaches. He could have left and gone somewhere else where he would have had maybe a better situation, but he stayed and was really well respected by that program. But outside of that, he's a little thin for an X, but he's got really smooth releases, just enough kind of build up speed to stack defensive backs, even if he isn't burning anybody. Good catch radius, works the sideline really well, really good after the catch. Kind of like a day 3 T. Higgins type, whereas like Ted McMillan is like a first round version of T. Higgins. Thinking of some other receivers I like. Kyle Williams out of Washington State. He's got some speed, thin guy, but I really like his route running and his explosiveness. I'm trying to think. Tight ends. Bryson Nesbitt's a name to watch. He was at UNC with Drake May. Obviously, they had a pretty good connection. He was asked about him, I believe, at the Senior Bowl or the Combine, and said it would be cool to reunite with him. But those are the names. Again, this is more of like a like an early April, late March question. I'll be able to answer this one. But right now, I have like a pretty rudimentary understanding of the guys that are kind of around in day 3.
Yeah. And again, thank you guys for jumping in here, and please, by all means, keep firing off your questions. As we're talking about, Andrew's joining the chat. Andrew, what's going on, buddy? One of our longtime members, big supporter here. Thank you guys all for supporting us with the premium memberships and for joining us here. It's good to have, more people jumping in here in the chat. Great. We'll keep it going. New names I'm seeing here. Jason Semier. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but thank you for becoming a Patriots Press Pass premium member. We're here for you, pal. Any RBs, you could see it. I got one buddy, I got to tell you, that's all he wants in this world is a running back. He wants 100 of them. He's his screw receiver, get every running back possible. And this has been called like one of the better running back drafts, where you could see, I saw your pal Mina Kimes over at ESPN had tweeted something along the lines of, you could have 4 or 5 go in the first 2 days here, who are carry the mail every down RB1 type backs.
Mm-hmm.
The Patriots have Ramondre Stevenson under contract here. And a lot of people outside the organization seem to like him more than Patriots fans like him, right, Taylor? He might have had a really rough go of it last year because the fumbling issues were at the forefront, but also he just kept getting smacked behind the line of scrimmage. It was a really difficult year, to the point that Antonio Gibson looked like he was the more effective runner as the season wore on. So what do you want to see them do here? And again, this is a luxury, not a need, but a game-breaking talent is a game-breaking talent. And if you can find one, and there was a running back you fell in love with, could you see the Patriots going there in the first couple of days? Or do you think that they're day 3 kind of, pass catching back, and that's kind of where they'll be mainly looking?
I think that running back is a position that should be addressed. I think it's a spot where they could use developmental talent, because if Ramondre Stevenson gets hurt, fumbles, whatever the case may be, if he gives you reason to doubt him 2 years in a row, when you sign him to a 4-year extension, you got to start thinking about somewhere else to go. As much as I like Antonio Gibson, I just don't think he's a starter. Like, he's a big play threat for sure, but I think he's better as a rotational player, as a role player. So, Elliot Wolf also said that this is a good year for running backs. It's a really deep class. I think also, even the undrafted free agent market is probably going to have a lot of good players. So I would rather address it maybe like the 5th round. I don't really know how the board's going to fall, because I'm not super familiar with a lot of these guys. I know Damian Martinez literally is Ramondre Stevenson. add in the fact that Alex Highsmith, I think, was involved in recruiting him, or at least they overlapped at Miami when Highsmith was their general manager a couple years ago. He's someone I've got on my radar. I know Alex loves Ollie Gordon. But it seems like there's different flavor. Like if you want a receiving back, if you want a downhill guy, you want a slasher. It's a little bit of every type in this draft class. So it should definitely be on the Patriots' radar. I don't know if they address it in the draft, but certainly I would not unless you get some extra second and third rounders, I wouldn't touch it before the fourth.
Okay. I think that's fair. Consensus, right? Like,
I mean, you got two running backs. Like, it just is not. They haven't even signed any. I think if they had signed a free agent, I would have felt a little more differently that, they really need to, because if they sign competition, like, what's going on here? But like, they didn't sign anybody on the first couple of days. Maybe they'll add a camp body, but I can't see any addition to this room not being more of a young guy who could potentially develop into a role.
Yeah. And I would agree there. And just letting all of you premium members know, we're in free agency mode right now, but as soon as you kind of get through this week, and then we'll pick up the pieces, whatever else is happening as it goes, it's full on go, draft all the time. And this is where Tayler, I think, is going to be doing some work for you guys specifically, but obviously for us at CLNS, really digging into the tape. So we're going to have a lot of draft profiles on a lot of names. Day one picks, guys you could take staying put at 4, guys you might take if you were to trade back. Day 2 players, as the Patriots have 3 day 2 picks there, and what you could do. Can you move around the board? Really, there's so many names out there, because when you're where the Patriots are at 4, with the possibility of trading down and enough capital to move around, basically there's only 2 or 3 players not on your radar, Tayler. So you're going to have to preview every single one of them, I'm afraid. And that's fine, because that's what you like to do. You like to look at film, and you will do nothing but that from time to time. Owner, CEO, podfather, grand poobah of the company, your best friend and mine, Nick Gelso, is in the chat. This guy loves football like nobody's business. You wouldn't even know it. And he wants to know right now, can Cooper Kupp be your wide receiver 1, Tayler, if they were to bring him in? And I'm going to, this is how, can I go behind the scenes on Taylor's mindset?
Sure.
Tayler has opinions, but then sometimes he'll be like, all right, maybe I was too harsh. Let me see if I can see something good here. I believe Taylor's initial opinion was, I don't know if Kupp's got anything left in the tank. You looked at film a little bit and you thought, okay, I think they can make it work. What's your general vibe here on what you'd be getting if you did get him? I think wide receiver 1, maybe by default, but can he be a wide receiver 1? That's probably asking a lot.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Like, production wise, yeah, he would have been last year. Like, he'd probably be the best receiver on your team. Should he be? No, because one thing I first looked against man coverage, because you're going to see explosiveness against man. Like, when a guy's right on your hip, can you create enough separation, whether it's through, physicality, whether it's you doing it with burst? Earlier in Cooper Kupp's career, like the Offensive Player of the Year season, he was doing it with a little bit of everything, right? It was the route running, it was the explosiveness and all that. Now against man coverage, he doesn't really separate. It's kind of rough to watch, to be honest. Unless he's schemed open, just the top of routes, unless he can kind of shove a guy off, that guy is just there all the time. He can make some tough catches, so he's not a total waste or anything like that, but he's not the Cooper Kupp that people may hope that they would be getting. He does have some juice getting vertical. Now, he does need a little bit of help, but I was surprised that he can kind of hit a little bit of an extra gear to create some space if he's going downfield. But yeah, I would not be disappointed if the Patriots didn't get him. It also sounds like he doesn't want to come here. Mike Vrabel said he doesn't want anybody here that doesn't want to be here. The team has kind of operated under that mentality where, like with Brandon Ayuk, they kind of pulled out of that race because it was very clear he was using them for leverage and didn't actually want to come there. And they were like, you know what? Yeah, we're desperate, but we're not stupid. We're going to take our ball and we're going to go home. I think that's where I know Jeff Howe mentioned 4 teams that were involved. He did not mention the Patriots. That was about half an hour after reporting that Cooper Kupp would take less money for a more ideal spot. If I'm the Patriots, I'm like, yeah, if that's the kind of thing that he's letting people find out and that he's letting kind of leak out there, no. I'm not going to be the embarrassment that was desperate for Cooper Kupp when I don't know how many games he's going to play and he doesn't want to play for this team. Like I know fans really want good players, but he's not good enough to warrant embarrassing yourself. And I think that's I'm at the point where that's where I think this would go.
Yeah, Nick Gelso also wants to let everyone know that Taylor's setup is sweet. However, Patrick Van O's is missing the Funkos behind him. I got some. They're way back there, though.
I'm
Can't
working
see
on
them.
it. I need a shelf.
We need a shelf. Amit needs shelves. Yes, to get it in there. So, yeah, the Cup decision, just recapping what we were talking in the front, we're probably going to go another 15 minutes or so here, give you guys a full hour. Once again, members here, we're here for you. This is your room. We want you to drive the conversation here. We'll keep going because we've got it. But I'd rather you guys dictate which way you want this conversation to go. As far as the Cooper Kupp thing, it's a weird one, right? Because you look at the metrics and they're really bad, particularly the steady decline from, one of the greatest wide receiver seasons ever into kind of like pretty good into last two injury riddled years, not only being hampered by injuries, but when he was on the field, not able to separate, not able to, really do much that you would count on from a top wide receiver. It's pretty telling that the team that drafted him, nurtured him, made him into what he was with one of the greatest, the great offensive minds in football, was so quick to cut bait and sign an older receiver to a more lucrative deal there and let Kupp walk. So that's got to tell you that they don't think he's got it, which is not great. But I do wonder, Taylor, if you were to say if he could return to 2022 levels, and let's say the last 2 years you can write off because of injury, and granted he's 3 years older now, and that's different at 32 versus 29 in wide receiver years. That's where the dog years start to kick in once you kind of get to that 30, 31, 32 range. But if he could get back to those, like that level of production and those numbers, I'd be fine doing the 13 or 14 million and the 2-year deal, because again, you've got the money and I don't know where else you're going to put it, and you've got to do something. But if he's the guy that has been going in the direction it looks like he's been going, you may be better just trying to develop what you have. I'm all over
with all the free agents yesterday, like the ones that got bags thrown at them, they still were like, yeah, I wanted to be somewhere where they wanted me. And then I also, that was why they partially bought in. Like, yeah, someone throws a bag of money at you, you're probably going to be pretty committed. But I do think that matters. And again, like, I don't think Kupp is ever he will never be 2021 Cooper Kupp again. And frankly, when you look at a lot of what people say about Cooper Kupp, like, I'm not saying he's a bad player. Like, he became his own type of prototype for what Sean McVay wanted in his offense. But a lot of it is that 1 year. Like, let's just be honest about it. And now we're saying, okay, that was 2021. 2022 was a decline. 2023 wasn't as good either. And 2024 he's hurt. Like, I don't know. I think we should be very honest about what this is. And I know people say, like, I hate good receivers and all that, but it's just like, I think this is a situation where you want to pay $15 million for a guy who might miss 3+ games for you. Again, has made it very clear he's not interested. At least with Milton Williams, the guy you did throw a bag at, and anybody that you kind of overpaid for, at no point were they leaking out information that they didn't really have a lot of interest in you. Even Milton did a full heel turn after agreeing to terms with the team. And then it was nothing except for, the Patriots, they're still in this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think they understand what's being reported. They know how the game is played. And this feels a lot like what happened last year with Brandon Ayuk, except Ayuk is a guy who's young, whose game isn't fully reliant. Not that Kupp's is. I think he similarly isn't very reliant overly on his explosiveness. But when you're going to be 32 years old or 31, however old he is, like, yeah, I'm sorry, that's not as attractive. And you have Matt Collins as that leader in the room now who's, had some success, has worked with McDaniels, does the gritty work and all that. Like, frankly, I think Kupp would be kind of redundant in terms of what he would bring to the room. But, he's still a good player, and I don't want to discredit him. But this is not the guy I want to be shelling out $15 million a year for, even though you need to spend money and have nowhere else to throw it.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, it's like you don't have to do it. And again, that's what I said, Andrew. If If McVay thinks he's cooked, that's probably not great there, and that's kind of the tell-all. Continuing on here, another Cooper mentioned, and we talked about it here briefly at the top of the show. Amari Cooper, an option for 1 to 2 years, maybe, but also, again, you have to look at what everyone else is doing or not doing vis-a-vis Amari Cooper. You have to look at him moving to a situation on a team that did not have guys to throw to, and him not doing a freaking thing over there at all in Buffalo. That was surprising to me. Really surprising how much he seemed to fall off last year. You could say, all right, first couple of games getting integrated in the system. He was a total non-factor. And I do wonder if the vibe is that he's completely cooked at this point.
Yeah, like the Bills basically brought him in to be what we were hoping that he would be if the Patriots signed him last year, and what Javon Baker would be in a similar role, which is just, hey, you're one-on-one, you're Amari Cooper, the best route runner in football. Even if you don't have the physical tools, maybe you'll be able to make a contested catch, get open on a slant. And he wasn't doing that consistently for them. And Keon Coleman continued to have to kind of be that ISO guy for them at times. Even not really Mac Hollins, but like Mac Hollins was starting over Amari Cooper. That should be all you need to know, right? They signed Mac Hollins. He's on the team. He was the only guy with Josh McDaniels when they were there who was more productive was Devontae Adams. Like, no duh. So, yeah, man, I'm sorry. Like, Amari Cooper, I think he is cooked. A guy like him. And the same thing with Stephon Diggs, who's coming off a torn ACL, right? They don't have a very strong market right now because they're old guys. They've had significant injuries. And last year, I think Diggs still showed he's a good player, but now there's a massive question mark over his head. Keenan Allen's in the same boat, an old guy who just doesn't have a lot of juice. And he was never reliant on juice either, but he gets harder every year. You lose a little bits of speed that you didn't already have. All of those guys, even before this, were in the same category for me of just like, if they sign them, I'll be surprised. Like Hopkins is maybe the only one, because I swear he's immortal. Like he's always just fast enough to be good, but he was the only guy in that ballpark, and he's in Baltimore.
But even him, 1 year, $5 million, and that's it. That's what you're looking at this point. And you look at all the other guys who signed ahead of an Amari Cooper. These are not world beaters. MVS, Nick Westbrook. Oh, you see Mac Hollins with the Patriots, Demarcus Robinson, Diami Brown, who had a nice finish to his season there.
Don't talk crap about him. You're going to be like Amon-Ra. Remember, did you know about that?
No.
Remember when Amon-Ra listed everybody who got picked before him, kind of like the Brady thing?
Yeah.
He was talking shit. And I think it was because somebody was like, I don't know who Diami Brown is. It was something like that, or he like kind of made fun of the guy. And then the next year, I think they beat Detroit or something, and everybody was talking shit on Amon-Ra because it's like, well, you don't know who Diami Brown is? Now you do. It was funny.
Yeah. So answering this question about the Discord memberships, we need to be able to get a hold of you guys, which is why I kind of put in here how to get word out to you to get to the Discord. That's going to be something we'll be open mic, and we'll let you chat as well. While we're working on the Discord chat room, we've decided to do these memberships where we can talk to you and take in your messages, and it's really all yours, and we'll answer any and all of your questions. But we are going to also go to Discord, where you'll actually be able to speak with some of the hosts that we bring on here. And a lot of these Q&As, they'll take on different forms. We'll be bringing in other members as well. So one week you might have a Q&A for a Greg Bedard or for Mike Giardi, who might join us in here. So, there'll be a variety of different people where you get to ask those people specifically their questions. And Jeff, thank you for hanging on here. If you have a question again before we wrap, we're going to go for another 10 minutes. By all means, throw them in here. Sure, Nelson, I'll throw it on there. Thoughts on Deontay Johnson? I don't know if anyone's ever going to sign that guy again.
That man's toxic. No, he's done. I would be stunned if he is signed by anybody else. After last year, players liked him, which is the thing. He like whatever team he had previously been on and then moved, he was boys with everybody, which is significant, right? It wasn't like a Devondre Campbell situation where, his teammates like hate him now or anything like that. But after last season, I don't think anything can happen with Deontay Johnson. Also, wanted to tease this for the members. I actually just got a little bit of confirmation from a DM. One thing that will be available to members will be an interview with a certain Patriots defensive player who, I'm not going to say who or anything like that, but just a little, fun tease for y'all. I just got to confirm.
Yeah, we're gonna be throwing a lot of stuff at you guys. We're just ramping things up now. Had to get through free agency, but once we get into draft stuff and draft profiles, a lot more content in there and a lot more exclusive content, exclusive clips, things that you can't get on the regular site. Plus, you get first access to all of our videos before they go live, and everything is ad free, which I know is great. And there'll be no Google ads or no YouTube ads on there for there. Going back to yesterday, Tayler, you and I were both at Gillette Stadium meeting the guys, and definitely some good vibes. I think
I'd say great
among
vibes,
it.
honestly.
Yeah, some really good vibes, and I mean, this wasn't home run after home run after home run, but it was a nice, Patriots. That's a kind of a victory lap for them after basically striking out completely in free agency last year. Getting guys to come play for you, particularly one that you would have considered one of your top 2 targets, was really a big deal. And so, like I said, good stuff all around here for those people. I think Moses is the guy who really, popped in terms of Morgan Moses, in terms of his personality there. That guy, I could listen to him talk all day long. I thought he was terrific. And again, we've talked about how many of these players have had familiarity with the coaches. Some people question whether that's like a good thing or not. And Mike Vrabel gave an interesting answer on, hey, because again, right now, Milton Williams really the only guy they signed who hasn't played for somebody somewhere along the way. Here's what Vrabel said about that process when it comes to signing players that the coaches have familiarity with.
Feeling of familiarity you have with some of these guys, not just you, but the extended coaching staff have in terms of.
I don't know how you could do free agency any differently. Like, I really don't. Just the timing that's involved with a lot of this stuff. It's important to me, and Robert's trusted Elliott and myself to bring the right people onto this football team. And so if we have coaches that we trust and believe in and have been with players, we have to take that into consideration. If there's players that Elliott or anybody else in the personnel department have had, or myself, I think that's critical. We have to evaluate the tape. That's the first thing we do. Like, we watch the tape, and then it's, what is this person? Who are we going to get every single day? Because there's going to be times in every football season that it's not going well. And I've seen it from these players that they're not going anywhere. And the other ones that we bring in, and the other ones that are down in that locker room right now, like, they're resilient. They're not going to back down when things aren't bad. They can handle adversity. They'll attack adversity. So that's what the idea is. And it really helps when you know somebody or a coach or a trusted personnel member has been with that player. It's just hard, it's important.
Tayler, your thoughts on that take? I could play it 2 ways, and I'm a little mixed on this thing, but I do agree. It happens so fast without the familiarity to be able to draw somebody, or literally 1.5 times or a big bag of coin. It is challenging. This is a crazy time here, not just for the teams that have to quickly assess where they're going to hit, where they're going to miss, go into plan B. Does this guy like them? Do they not? Striking out at a bunch of different people, but also the players where it's like, I don't know, man, where do I want to go? Like, I don't know these people. I don't know this. I don't know that. The familiarity does seem to play a pretty big role in a lot of this.
I mean, it's a relationship business. It's the same with coaching. It's the same with football. It's the same with our business. Those matter. And think about it, right? If someone is offering you a big contract, but you don't really know the city, but you're also considering somebody that you have a relationship with. And we saw one thing about Mike Vrabel, anybody who's worked with him talks about how well he knows their families, the connections he made, like Rand Carthon, right? Remember, it kind of seemed like they didn't have a very good relationship because you had the A.J. Brown trade where he leaves the draft room. You have the fact that he didn't really want Rand Carthon to even get the job. He wanted it to be Ryan Cowden. So all that tension that you think about externally, actually, Rand Carthon said that when Vrabel got fired, his daughter was pissed. His young daughter was like, what are you doing? That's stupid. Why would you get rid of Mike? So I think that stuff is legit. Everybody who worked with him in Tennessee talks about that. And we even saw it with Robert Spillane, right? He's like helping, like walking his daughter. It's very cute, and you can tell it's very transparent. Like the family thing is not lip service. I don't think it was with Gerard either. I want to point that out. I don't think he was full of smoke. I think one of the things he did best, and you saw it in the grading, one of the most only improved things was how they treated the family and the kids. And I think Mayo created a much better environment that way. But when you have that memory of a coach, right? And Josh, I don't know what he was doing in Vegas necessarily, was doing enough, I guess, that people, had some respect for him. But when you're trying to pick between one team and a guy where you're like, oh, I do love Vrabel, I like playing for Vrabel, or like, I really respect Josh, it does make a difference versus going to a place where you don't know anybody. It's either comparable money, or even if it's a lot of money, you're like, all right, but I'm uprooting my family and I have no idea what this is going to mean, especially when so many of these guys are on their third contracts, not even their second. So like your second is where you're trying to cash in sometimes. Third occasionally if you're just trying to make as much money at the end of your career. But most of the guys they signed have good football left. And they're like, you know what? Let me start something new over here in a situation I know.
Yeah, one of those players recently signed. Patriots signed safety Marcus Epps to a 1-year deal, $4.4 million. He has familiarity having played for Josh McDaniels with the Raiders, correct? That's when he was over there.
He was actually a captain for that half season that Josh, or less than half, that Josh was the head coach.
So there is that question, and we have someone asking about Epps here. May Prods, thank you for becoming a member. First question from May in this chat. Thanks for chiming in. Thanks for supporting us. We really do appreciate it. Thoughts on Epps? What will his role be? Do you have an idea? Is this a depth piece? Is this someone who could start for you? How do you see this for this signing?
I think safety is going to be a competition.
I do too.
I would assume that Peppers and Duggar are the starters, especially Peppers. I don't think he did anything to lose his job last year. He just obviously was away from the team for off-field reasons. And then he had a knee injury. He couldn't go to the facility to rehab it. And I think it carried over, and he ended up on injured reserve to close the year, I believe. So I think Pepper should be fine. He's a good player. Now Duggar has had 2 bad seasons in a row. So honestly, he's the most talented player in that room, but I have no idea what his future is going to be. And then behind him, it's Marte Mapu, it's Jalen Hawkins, it's Del Pettis, all 3 guys who were on the team last year, but none really made enough of an impact that you're like, yes, that's the third safety. Marcus Epps, on the other hand, was a starter for Josh McDaniels, was a starter until he got hurt early last season, and he was a captain for Josh McDaniels. And everything I've read about him is he was a key piece in that secondary, specifically as a center fielder. And they really liked him over there. And I don't think people were happy that he didn't end up coming back. Now, tore his ACL in, I think, October or something like that, like very early on. So he's probably not going to be the same player. He's 29 years old. So I'm penciling him in as their third safety. I'm defaulting. Anybody this,
and I'm throwing this question up here too, from this on this topic while you're on it. Who's playing deep safety? Yeah.
So I think it's still Peppers as your primary free safety with Duggar as your box guy. They don't play a lot of free safety nickel, as I mentioned earlier, but really in dime, obvious passing situations is where you'll see that third safety. That's where I think that Epps plays like a Duron Harmon kind of role, where he comes in, he's your center fielder, and then Peppers and Duggar, wherever you like their matchup best, closer to the line of scrimmage as a robber from the deep part, what have you, that's where they kind of fill in. So yeah, I think, and Epps play wise, I think he's fine. Like he's not very good near the line of scrimmage because I don't think he's a great tackler. He's not super strong or physical, but he's got some range, and he's an okay tackler, I think. So I don't think he's a guy that you really want in the box too much. So that's why I think, center fielder. He'll drop down a little bit, make some plays in the alley, but you'd rather him as far from that the action as possible.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, guys, for those questions. We'll take 1 or 2 more before we wrap it. We're going to go back to Nelson. Could they bring in Tyron Smith or Jackson Barton as a stopgap and a mentor for the rookie LT or LTs? I think they are going to sign. I think they're going to scrape one of these. Taylor, this expression worries me.
I've never seen Jackson Barton in my life. Or heard that name. I'm looking him up right now. The Cardinals.
What was he? Cardinals.
Yeah, he's been in the league since 2019. I mean, I'm not to be rude, but like if I've never heard of him, I don't really care. If
Well,
they
I
sign
mean,
him.
like I
Not
said,
really a camp
Tyron
body.
Smith, and obviously
Tyron
we
Smith
still have
would be the right. Like
Cam
Jackson
Robinson.
Carter's not a stopgap. He's a camp body. Tyron Smith, I feel like you could do worse. Like he's probably better than Cam Robinson. So like I'm not going to scoff at it. But Tyron Smith also wasn't even picking up the phone for the Patriots last year, apparently. So
yeah, well, no one's picking up the phone for him right now, and that's kind of what you might get.
right.
That's what
if it's him and Cam Robinson, like, yeah, I'll go Tyron Smith, of course. But like buyer beware, or at least know what you're getting. Like Tyron Smith is not Tyron Smith.
No, I know, but that's what I think people have to consider here. And again, if you got a question, throw it in the chat, or we may wrap it here. And thank you, Nelson, for jumping in. I think that's one of the things you really have to think of here. If the Patriots sign the 32nd best left tackle in the NFL, it's an upgrade. It is. If you sign someone who is startable, even if they're one of the worst, that's fine, because you were beyond replacement level last year. You were in like okay backup territory. That's how far down you were. You might have had the 60th. If you took everybody in the NFL who could play left tackle potentially, that includes like a Joe Thuney who could do it as an emergency. I mean, any guard you might kick out there and make them survive, any right tackle that you might take and say, do your best. The Patriots might have had the 60th best left tackles in football, considering any other bodies on other teams would have been better, not just the people who were designated to play left tackle for their particular team. So if you find someone that you could say is actually starting caliber, even if they're the worst, it's a massive upgrade.
I mean, yeah, you win it on them. I don't need to, I think
I'm not, I don't mean to be mean, but that's the reality.
It is what it is.
They were backups, and not even good backups, forced to start. It's not your fault. You are who you are. If you're a backup tackle in the NFL, you're a good football player. You made it. But like, you're being asked to play one of the most difficult positions on the field. It's really not for everybody. So it's not a knock.
Watching Trey Jacobs last year, man, I felt so bad. It's just like, it's not his fault. Like, he has a place in the NFL. He should not be lining up against Nick Bosa for 70 snaps. Like, and people hate the guy. And I'm like, it's not his fault. They literally are on their third option. Like, yeah, it's tough, and you hope they finally address it, but I think they will. Again, right tackle, you have Morgan Moses, you got Caden Wallace. I'm in Demontre Jacobs maybe as your swing. I'm good with that. Now, get your Will Campbell, your Armand Membu, your Ariante Ursary, and let's get this thing going.
We're talking about center and guard. Again, this is something that's coming together, but the retirement of David Andrews was a question mark whether or not he played. You weren't sure you were good at center yet. You weren't. And whether you had to address that, whether at least to have depth at the position or to potentially have somebody who could challenge Andrews or possibly just win the job outright, or that you brought in to replace him. He's been a great soldier and a great Patriot, and he was kind of forced out and forced to potentially retire, which was unfortunate, but it's understandable. Failing injury, failing his physical and being let go by the Patriots in what was a bit of a surprise announcement yesterday. What is the plan at center and guard? Obviously, you've got Michael Onwenu. If you've got these tackles in here, that you're probably not going to try to kick Onwenu back out as a stopgap measure at right tackle. So you're looking at Onwenu for sure at guard, possibly Strange at center. Then it's kind of a crapshoot, right? You got about how many different candidates who could jump in there in the left guard position?
Yeah, I mean, right now you're not even really looking at like starters. Like maybe Daniel Brunskill is like a guy who could do a little bit of both, but I think right now you're looking at that's tough. Like Layden, I think has starting potential, but I'd like some competition so he doesn't have to. And then center again, like this was probably going to happen anyway. They tried to get Drew Dahlman and that didn't work out. So at least again, and he wanted to go to Chicago. I don't think they're thinking about it bid or anything. So they made the effort. It's like wide receiver that in that case where, they were just kind of in a tough spot. Now they could probably find a center in the draft. Like if they really are concerned, Jared Wilson will probably be there in the third or something like that. You can always find a guard, but also you got City, you got Layden, you got Cole. Like you could throw guys at the wall and see what sticks. And if you really are in desperate shape, you trade for some veteran. Like left guard's not tackle. It's not that hard to find one necessarily, but you need a head start on it at least. So you're not like mid-season, like, oh shit, I need a guard. similar to where you were at center with, Nick. Oh my gosh, I can never remember his name. Freaking Nick. Oh my gosh, I have to do this. I'm gonna spiral. Nick Leverett. Thank you. Nick Leverett. Where he doesn't pan out at all, and you have to hope and pray that Ben Brown will be able to learn the offense.
He started and then got released. It was like, yes, it was a strange one, but yeah.
I felt so bad. I liked him too. I liked him a lot. That was disappointing. That was one of my biggest L's, to be honest.
That was tough. Letting everybody know here, and again, thank you so much for jumping in here. This was actually a lot of fun. Good positive vibes in here. We really did dig having you guys in here, the members, and doing something specifically for you. We did do this for GOAT and All Pro. Next week, we may do it for everyone to give you a taste, but going forward, this is something that these private chats and getting a chance to talk to the hosts and the various talent here at CLNS is going to be reserved for the GOAT tier. But we wanted to give everybody a little taste of the action here on this first one. So I'm glad as many of you joined as you did, and I'm glad you were active in the chat, and we hope you dug it. As I put in here, if you can send us your emails, I gave an email address here, info@CLNS Media. If you send us emails, we'll be able to send you a blast or include you on our e-blasts here to be able to send out notifications when we are doing this stuff. But we're going to try to make it a set time every single week, and it's going to be Friday. Could be 4, could be 5 o'clock. But we're also you're here, you're paying for this. We'll take your suggestions as well. So you can hit us up. You can DM me or Tayler anytime. And say, hey, I'm a member. You guys ever think about doing this? This was great, but what if you did that? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And we're here to kind of, we're here to serve you as far as this is concerned. So thank you guys for hanging out. Tayler, any final thoughts before we continue to wait for Cooper Kupp to decide that he doesn't want to play here?
I think I'm good for now. I'll be over here crossing my fingers, I guess.
Yeah, we will see you. Thank you again for joining this members only mailbag. Sign up for the premium memberships. As we said, GOAT tier going forward is what gets you these types of exclusive opportunities to talk to the talent here at CLNS Media, and we are going to roll some more people in. But in the meantime, it's going to be all inclusive. Anybody who signed up, you can come hang out with us. And of course, there's tons of other free content that you can access on Patriots Press Pass channel. We have a new All 32 with Mike Giardi that just dropped. It's for members only right now, so you can check it out ad-free, premiering for you as we speak ahead of the public release. And we've also got a Greg Bedard Patriots podcast with some really interesting intel on the Patriots situation. So the football chatter continues here on CLNS, and that's going to wrap it up. We'll have another scouting video coming up over the weekend as Tayler Kyles digs into some film, and you're looking at defensive fits. Is that correct, Tayler?
TBD.
Forget it. That was 5 minutes ago. It's changed now. We got something.
I got it. Don't no, like it's coming. It's coming. I got it.
We got it. We'll tell you later. Thank you guys for hanging out. We'll see you later.